Hello, folks. How are you doing? Normally, for those who are a normal part of it, first, welcome, Tommy. How are you?
I'm good. Can you hear me okay?
I hear you just fine. We started a little bit late. Now, Tommy claims that he had the wrong link. I think he just got cold feet. So I had to make a point to call him up, nurture him, make him feel a little bit better about himself. So now he is a part of our program.
I don't want to say anything, but to tell you the truth, it's 8 a.m. and we start at 8 a.m., but we'll go from there. It's okay.
You're right about that. Actually, it's funny, folks, what we're doing with you, this early part of it, we're now into the actual time frame. Tommy and I very deliberately wanted to share with you our growth curve on this because a lot of people I speak with say, well, public speaking, you have to be born that way. And Tommy, you're so good at it because your DNA code made you happen that way. And so what Tommy and I are doing, we're sharing our glitches about this podcast stuff because we're pretty new at it. And yes, we're going to make mistakes, but we get better at it also. And I think that's the message that Tommy's trying to deliver to everybody out there. I have my doubts, and my role is to make them accountable in that direction. So
I don't want to say anything, but good morning, everyone. Good to be with you. And Joe, I don't know if you noticed, but I now am the proud owner of the golden microphone.
Really?
Do you see it? The golden microphone?
Yeah, I thought that was rust or something.
That's the golden, but I've achieved all greatness on it.
So you say. At best, I'll take your word for it.
Because of you, I have stepped into my greatness.
Fair enough. God bless you. So that being said, and thanks for folks who are making their comments with us and share it. I'd like to remind you, for those who find 8 o'clock just an obscene time of the day to be up and listening to something, you can record. You and me both. You can respond on the replay portion of it, and we will pick up those comments and suggestions. And one of the things that happened after episode 9, we're now in the 10th round of this spar, that somebody spoke about. Tommy mentioned Toastmasters. And somebody wrote back on that in a very inquisitive, informative manner. So I'm going to ask Tommy. Some people say, I'm not in that group, but some people say you're pretty good at what you do as a public speaker and a motivational speaker. Do you still belong to Toastmasters? And if you do, why is that the case? If you're so good at what you do,
I personally do not any longer belong to Toastmasters.
Right.
The average amount is usually 18 months for someone in Toastmasters.
Okay.
And I was in for 10 years.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. It's the idea behind that is, I'll share it with you, is that, it was given to me freely. So my decision was to give back. And it's just such a great place the give and take in Toastmasters is the greatest thing about it. You learn, then you teach, which is the greatest thing. What a great way to go about it. When you think about it, you learn from others, then you teach others.
Okay.
Life in a nutshell.
It seems to be a sense, to say this differently, I deal with different people for different projects all the time. And we're all human, whether we choose to admit to that or not publicly. And I say to people in the QT, look, as long as we keep our humanness between just the two of us or the three of us, whatever the number may be, we can do some serious damage out there for making our program work. So I suspect the Toastmasters format is along that same line, that you have human beings learning new skills, sharing back and forth as a mentorship. Am I off on that or not?
Well, the best thing about it is it's actually a club. It started out as a business club many years ago. So there's no rules, no regulations. It's a club, and each club runs itself. Okay. Each member of the club becomes the club. So all decisions being made for your club are by you and your club. Everything's voted on. But the secret behind Toastmasters is that you can actually have everybody's been there before. Everybody's been where you are. Everybody can have empathy for you when you come in and your knees are knocking and you're shaking and you don't know exactly how to write a speech out. Yeah. But one of the greatest things that Toastmasters has, it's a 2-level thing. It's presentation skills and it's leadership skills. But that being said, they have a thing called the icebreaker. And that's when you give your first speech. It's called the icebreaker. Okay. And the reason, and what they do, and it's really genius, is all you have to do is come up, and I say all you have to do. You go up and you talk about yourself. You tell us who you are, where you've been, where you grew up, where'd you go to school, do you have kids, do you not have kids? So it makes it a little easy that really all you're doing is going up and introducing yourself to the club.
Right.
So your first speech is just an introduction of who you are, what you've done, where'd you go to school. So it kind of makes it a little easier on you that it's not the most structured speech in the world, but everybody can help you grow from there.
Well, that's interesting. Actually, you say not the most structured. I kind of see it as that because the questions provide the structure. And if I'm hearing it correctly, the theme is share with us, the newbie, stuff you're already familiar with.
Yeah.
And so I don't have to think about it. I'm responding to the questions, and you provide the structure for me to respond. And I guess I'm going to hazard a guess. That's kind of what speaking is all about, that you share what you're familiar with. And the structure, I guess, becomes more internal rather than external.
Right.
But when you talk about being comfortable, is that kind of what you're trying to say, that you don't look at it as a presentation, but more as a share?
Well, my whole thing is if you could make your speeches conversational and you just realize that you're talking to an audience, yes, but you're just having a conversation. I always look at it as one. I've shared this before. It could be one person, one section, one group of people, one audience, wherever way you want to go. Right? I always think of everything as one. So one section, one group, one person, one audience. So to me, my connection is always I don't care how big the audience is. I just think of it as a one.
Right.
And it's my mindset. It's my way of how I got over the fear of public speaking, which you just heard me say out loud. Of course, I had a fear of public speaking. Of course, I had a fear of performing. Of course, I still feel it when I'm in my car before I go in to make a presentation. Naturally, we're human beings. Stinking thinking kicks in on every single person we will ever meet. Am I going to be good enough? Did I practice enough? Wow, is this as good as it goes through our head. We call it stinking thinking, and we all get it.
I hear that. It's interesting that, and I'm glad you said that. Excuse me. It turns out, folks, I don't know how this happens. I try to not agree with this guy, but he's good at what he does. And so I find it slipping out every now and then in agreement. So if I decompose every now and then, it's because one of those moments have happened. That I certainly get the concept of having to work into a comfort zone. And I'm not sure if I'm ever comfortable myself, but I guess the question becomes that when you said you were with it, what kept you a part of it for 10 years? Let me ask you that. 10 years, I think, is a long time to be committed to something. Was there a magic aura that kept you there, or a commitment, or a love, or what was the magic that allowed that to become an integral part of your life for a 10-year time period, the Toastmasters group?
Love is a good word. I became emotionally attached to the club, to Toastmasters, to the members.
Right.
I've built lifelong friends there. Again, the mindset of it is it's a club. Now, the good thing about that is, what do you do at your club? You hang out at your club. You hang out with your friends.
Right.
And so it's an educational club. So you get to see people every week. It was every 2 weeks, but we had a great foundation of people who were willing to give their time for the sake of others. So when you think about the whole picture, how great is that it's a club of people who care about others. Yeah, you'd want to join, and you'd want to stay. And every now and then I think about going and being part of it again. But as you know, I'm a solopreneur. I've always worked alone. So the amount of time that I would have to invest again, I don't know if it's worth my time right now. I put in my 10 years, and I don't know if I'd be able to do that. So I stopped going, but I miss it. I miss the camaraderie more than anything. Yeah. And you know what? I think that's the key to most clubs. If you have the camaraderie, even if it's a networking group, if it's a great group and you like being there, the camaraderie is really the answer.
Sure. I get that. And also, I just got an inkling, another part about you I didn't really realize, that you've expressed, at least indirectly, you couldn't give it your best you weren't going to give it your less than best.
Yeah.
And that's why you chose to move on. And you become good enough at it, some say, that you can develop your own momentum process that along with it. And I think, again, for those who are inclined to look up the organization, I think it's toastmasters.org rather than toastmasters.com.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
I also understand that each group has its own personality. You kind of alluded to that because it is a self-contained part of a bigger package, they develop their own persona, their own style collectively. And
no doubt.
And I guess in today's world where everything is now virtual, I'm assuming Toastmasters is the same thing.
Yeah.
That would be the best time to shop around, find out which ones exist out there. Some may be near you or not, and make a choice. I also understand too that even if you're allowed at least 2 episodes to visit before you would want to commit one way or the other, is that their protocol? That's my understanding. That's their protocol. So I think if you're going to find a silver lining in the cloud of COVID-19, that would be a great time. I call myself a toe dipper. I like to share this story, folks. This is not about me, but I got to share this. That when you talk about
it's about time you're sharing something.
Come a hot summer day, there are people who will do a cannonball in the deep end. They'll curl up their knees, they'll grab their legs and splat in the 15-inch foot side of the water. I will spend 2.5 hours dipping my toe in, along with the 4-year-olds and 5-year-olds, trying to build up to sliding into the water. So I think this is a great time to toe dip, you might say, your interest in many activities. And I would suggest Toastmasters could very well be a good feature. So for any of those who choose to listen to this and are very open to people visiting, please share your link or your website, your URL, whatever it may be. I'd be happy to share that back to the group. So that's my talk.
Yeah, and I don't want to say anything here, but
well, please don't. But go ahead anyway.
That might have been the first punch you've landed in 10 weeks.
Oh, it's the guy desperate, really.
No, the reason I say that is you actually brought a point here, which was terrific.
Well, it's about time you realize that, Tommy, but we'll keep going forward.
As I used to say when I was a kid, you got a point there, and if you wear a hat, you can cover it. So that being said, I often share, and this is great, everyone has a story. And everyone has a story that can help someone else. So when you think about public speaking, if you get out of yourself and you start to think that you can share a story that could help someone else, you just shared a story just now that could be created into a bigger, better story that people can actually connect with. You mentioned about going up to the pool and watching the other kids jump into the deep end, having such a great time, and you sitting on the sidelines, not having the grand time that everyone else has, right?
Yes.
And much appreciated, because I understand where you're coming from. I didn't leap into the deep end of the pool. I was never that kid who would hang out and jump off the diving board and do cannonballs. I wasn't. I was the guy that watched from the outside, everybody else having a grand time. And it took quite some years and some time for me to step into that. And maybe that's why the greatness of Toastmasters is just that. They bring you out to the deep end of the pool. So when you're talking about that, you don't have to start. That's why the icebreaker is about you. Okay. You already know about you. Who knows more about you than you?
True.
No one. So with that being said, instead of just coming in and saying, okay, I'm going to be the next Zig Ziglar, I'm going to jump right into the deep end of the pool, and when I come up, I'm going to be Tony Robbins. No, right? It's not how it works. It's we bring you along nice and easy, and then you create that character who becomes you, who's that person who gets to enjoy the deep end of the pool. You know, listen, we're all made from a different cut. Thank goodness, right? I know what you're saying. You know, there's a lot to cut this head out, right? It's like you need a chisel, a hammer, and some granite. I get it.
You're opposite. Very good.
Yeah. So that being said, it's not about jumping into the deep end in Toastmasters, but a great analogy. It's working your way up to the deep end. Okay. And that's a great way to look at it. So there's your story. You added so much content today that I'm going to have to go back and play this back again later. It's going to be that good.
Okay. Well, I suspect from the audience reaction, you're the last one on board to figure that one out, but I'll take it any way I can get it.
Obviously, it worked out over the weekend. I'm proud of you.
I enjoy this with Tommy. Again, we're coming up to a 15-minute timeline. We try to adhere to that. Already have time passed. But again, the purpose of this, folks, is to let you know that speech making, public speaking is not, you're not born with it for most of us. Mm-hmm. And those who look confident is because many of them, like Tommy said, perhaps began off as a toe dipper and now they're doing the cannonballs. I don't yet see Tommy that into the pool yet. He's still working at it though.
See, I'm a tall guy. The deep end isn't that deep for me.
Listen to this. Before this goes any further, you want to close us out, Tommy, in the last 15 seconds here?
I'm glad you woke up so fresh on a Monday morning.
With that, folks, I'm going to say goodbye before he gets too off the wall and begins to even embarrass even himself.
Off the wall. I get it. All right.
Thanks for joining us. Have a good week, and we'll again talk with you next Monday and share your comments.
Thank you.